December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. First Lieutenant Charles MacDonald crouches behind his M18 Hellcat tank destroyer, watching 3 German Tiger tanks emerge from the morning fog along the road to Bastogne. His crew has been trained for exactly this moment, but not in the way the manuals described. The official doctrine said tank destroyers should operate independently, high-speed hunters seeking targets of opportunity. But MacDonald and his platoon had learned something different in the hedgerows of Normandy, something that would fundamentally change American anti-armor tactics for the rest of the war. They had learned to hunt in packs of 3. What happened in the next 11 minutes, and what American after-action reports would reveal in the months that followed, would demonstrate a tactical evolution, born not from theory, but from desperation, adaptation, and the brutal mathematics of armor penetration at combat ranges. The Germans called it Rudeltaktik when their U-boats used it. The Americans had no formal name for it. They just called it staying alive. October 19th, 43. The Tank Destroyer School, Fort Hood, Texas. The United States Army is developing a new weapon system designed specifically to kill German tanks. The concept is elegant in its simplicity. Take a powerful gun, mount it on a fast chassis with minimal armor, and create a mobile anti-tank platform that can respond rapidly to enemy armor breakthroughs. Speed and firepower over protection. Hunt, shoot, and move before the enemy can respond. The M10 Wolverine enters service first, mounting a 3-inch gun on a modified Sherman chassis. Then comes the M18 Hellcat, the fastest tracked armored vehicle of the war, capable of 55 miles per hour on roads, armed with a 76mm gun that can penetrate 4 inches of armor at 1,000 yards. Finally, the M36 Jackson, mounting a 90mm gun capable of killing any German tank at reasonable combat ranges. The doctrine is clear. Tank destroyers operate independently or in pairs, maximum. They use their speed to reach defensive positions, engage enemy armor at range, and withdraw before counterattack. They are hunters, not brawlers. The Tank Destroyer Force motto says it all: seek, strike, and destroy. Doctrine is written in peacetime by men who have never faced a Tiger tank at 400 yards. If you're enjoying this deep dive into the story, hit the subscribe button and let us know in the comments from where in the world you are watching from today. June 7th, 1944. One day after D-Day, Normandy, France. The first American tank destroyer battalions land on the beaches and immediately discover that European warfare bears no resemblance to the training scenarios at Fort Hood. The hedgerow country of Normandy, locally called the bocage, consists of ancient field boundaries, thick earthen walls topped with dense vegetation, some 12 feet high, creating a maze of small enclosed fields connected by narrow sunken roads. Visibility is measured in yards, not miles. German anti-tank guns can hide anywhere. A Tiger tank can sit behind a hedgerow completely concealed until an American vehicle passes within 50 yards, then destroy it before the crew can even identify the threat. Independent operation in this terrain is suicide. Second Lieutenant Robert Lupi commands an M10 tank destroyer in the 703rd Tank Destroyer Battalion. His after-action report from June 11th, 1944, describes what happens when doctrine meets reality. At 1400 hours, my TD was advancing independently along a sunken road northwest of Carentan per doctrine. We encountered a German Panzer IV at approximately 60 yards range. The enemy tank fired first. The round penetrated our gun shield, killing the gunner and loader instantly. We abandoned the vehicle. The enemy tank withdrew before we could engage. Lupi survived because his driver reacted quickly, but he learned something crucial. In close terrain against concealed enemies, the tank destroyer that sees first and shoots first wins, and seeing first requires multiple sets of eyes covering multiple angles. One tank destroyer alone has limited fields of observation. 3 tank destroyers positioned in mutual support can cover 360 degrees. By mid-June, American tank destroyer crews are improvising. Instead of operating independently, they begin moving in groups of 2 or 3, maintaining visual contact, covering each other's blind spots. It is not official doctrine, it is survival instinct, and it works. June 18, 1944. The 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion engages German armour near Saint-Jean-de-Dié. 3 M10s, operating as an informal team, destroy 2 Panzer IVs and a Stug assault gun without loss. The German tanks had been positioned to ambush individual American vehicles. They did not expect 3 tank destroyers to appear simultaneously from 3 different hedgerow gaps, creating overlapping fields of fire that left the German crews with no safe angle of withdrawal. The battalion commander, Lieutenant Colonel Edwin Leiper, notices the pattern. He interviews the crews and discovers they coordinated their movement without orders, instinctively understanding that multiple vehicles provide better security and firepower concentration. Leiper writes in his June operational report, "Crews are naturally forming 3 vehicle elements for mutual support in close terrain. This practice should be encouraged and formalized." Tank Destroyer Command at Fort Hood receives Leiper's report in early July. The response is skeptical. The official reply, dated July 9, 1944, states, "Tank destroyers are designed for high-speed independent operation. Grouping multiple TDs reduces flexibility and creates concentrated targets for enemy artillery. Battalion commanders should enforce proper dispersal per doctrine." In other words, stop doing what keeps you alive and follow the manual. But in Normandy, the crews keep doing what works, and by late July, they begin refining the tactic into something more sophisticated than simple mutual support. They begin developing coordinated ambush techniques that will terrify German tank commanders. July 26, 1944. Operation Cobra, the American breakout from Normandy, begins with massive aerial bombardment followed by armoured exploitation. The 803rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, equipped with M10 Wolverines, is attached to the 2nd Armoured Division for the breakthrough operation. Their mission: screen the flanks of the advancing armour columns and destroy any German tanks attempting to counterattack. Staff Sergeant William McAfee commands an M10 named Persuader. His crew has been in combat for 6 weeks. They have learned every trick of hedgerow fighting, and they have developed a tactic they call the L-shaped ambush, though they do not know that term. They just know it works. The concept is simple, but requires precise coordination. 3 tank destroyers position themselves to form an L shape, covering a road or open field. 1 TD sits at the base of the L, covering the kill zone frontally. 2 more TDs form the vertical arm of the L, positioned on the flank at 90-degree angles to the base. When an enemy tank enters the kill zone, all 3 TDs engage simultaneously from different angles. The German tank commander faces an impossible problem. His frontal armour might stop the round from the base TD, but his side armour, typically half the thickness of frontal armour, is exposed to the 2 flank TDs. If he rotates his turret to engage one flank TD, the other has a clean shot at his side. If he advances, he moves deeper into the kill zone. If he retreats, he exposes his thinner rear armour. There is no good option. The L-shaped ambush creates a geometry of death. July 28, 1944. Near Coutances, McAfee's 3TD team establishes an L-shaped ambush covering a road intersection. At 11:30 hours, a German column appears, 2 Panzer IVs, followed by several half-tracks carrying infantry. McAfee, positioned at the base of the L, lets the German tanks enter the kill zone. When the lead Panzer IV reaches the centre of the intersection, McAfee fires. His 76mm round strikes the Panzer IV's frontal armour at 400 yards and penetrates, but does not immediately disable the tank. The German commander begins rotating his turret toward McAfee's position. Before he can fire, the 2 flank TDs, positioned in hedgerows 90 degrees to either side, fire simultaneously. Both rounds strike the Panzer IV's side armour. The tank erupts in flames. The 2nd Panzer IV attempts to reverse but exposes its rear armour to the flank TDs. 1 round penetrates the engine. Compartment. The tank shudders to a halt and the crew bails out. The entire engagement lasts 43 seconds. 3 American tank destroyers destroyed 2 German medium tanks without taking a single hit in return. McAfee's after-action report describes the engagement in matter-of-fact language, but he includes a crucial observation. The enemy tank had no chance once it entered the position. Firing from 3 angles simultaneously prevented effective response. Recommend this tactic be adopted as standard procedure for TD operations in close terrain. By August, multiple tank destroyer battalions are using variations of the 3-vehicle ambush tactic. Some call it triangulation, some call it crossfire tactics, some crews just call it the 3-way. But all of them understand the fundamental principle. German tanks are individually superior to American tank destroyers in armor protection, and often in firepower, but 3 tank destroyers attacking from 3 different angles create a problem that even a Tiger tank cannot solve. The question is, why 3? Why not 2 or 4? The answer lies in geometry, communication, and the specific vulnerabilities of German tank design. 2 tank destroyers can create a crossfire, but they only cover 2 angles. If the enemy tank has competent crew coordination, the commander can identify both threats and choose to engage the more dangerous one while using terrain or smoke to mask the other. 2 is better than 1, but still vulnerable to aggressive enemy response. 4 tank destroyers provide even better coverage, but coordination becomes exponentially more difficult. Radio communication in 1944 is reliable, but not instantaneous. Hand signals work at close range, but not across dispersed positions. 4 separate vehicles trying to coordinate fire create confusion about sectors of responsibility, target priority, and withdrawal routes. 4 is theoretically better, but practically unwieldy. 3 is the perfect balance. 3 tank destroyers can position themselves in a triangle or L shape covering multiple approaches. 3 crews can maintain radio contact and coordinate fire without overwhelming the battalion radio net. 3 vehicles provide redundancy. If one is knocked out or suffers mechanical failure, 2 remain to complete the mission. And crucially, 3 creates the geometric problem that German tank commanders cannot solve. A Tiger tank has thick frontal armor, approximately 4 inches on the glacis plate and turret front. Its side armor is significantly thinner, around 3.5 inches on the turret side and just under 3 inches on the hull side. The rear armor is thinner still, roughly 3 inches on the turret rear and about 2.5 inches on the hull rear. These differences are not trivial. They represent the difference between invulnerability and penetration at combat ranges. An M18 Hellcat 76mm gun-firing standard M62 armor-piercing rounds can penetrate approximately 4 inches of armor at 500 yards when striking at 90 degrees, meaning perpendicular to the armor surface. Against the Tiger's frontal armor at typical combat ranges of 400 to 800 yards, penetration is uncertain. But against the Tiger's side armor at the same ranges, penetration is highly probable. Against rear armor, it is nearly certain. 3 tank destroyers, positioned in an L shape or triangle, create a situation where at least 1, and usually 2, have shots at the Tiger's side or rear armor, regardless of how the Tiger orients itself. The Tiger commander must choose which threat to face, and in making that choice, he exposes his flanks to the others. German tank commanders begin reporting this problem in their after-action reports by late August 1944, August 23, 1944. A captured German tank commander from the 2nd Panzer Division, Oberleutnant Klaus Hartmann, is interrogated by American intelligence officers near Argentan. The transcript, declassified in 1978, reveals his growing frustration with American tank destroyer tactics. In Russia, we fought Soviet tanks that came at us directly, in waves. You could predict their approach, you could prepare positions. But the American tank destroyers, they do not behave like tanks. They hide, they wait, and they never attack alone. Always 3, always from different positions. You see one, you turn to engage it, and the others are already firing at your sides. It is not tank warfare, it is an ambush, it is murder. The word choice is significant. Murder, not combat, not battle. Murder, because murder implies helplessness, inevitability, the inability to defend oneself. That is exactly what three-vehicle tank destroyer ambushes created. A sense of helplessness among German tank crews who had dominated European battlefields for 4 years. But the tactic had to be refined through blood and failure before it became truly effective. Because in August and September 1944, as American forces race across France, German tank commanders begin developing counter-tactics. September 4th, 1944. Near Nancy, France, the 704th Tank Destroyer Battalion suffers its worst single-day losses of the campaign. 5 M10 tank destroyers destroyed, 14 crew members killed, 23 wounded. The Germans had learned. Hauptmann Ernst Bachmann, commander of a Panther tank company, describes his counter-tactic in a post-war interview conducted in 1947. "We realized the American tank destroyers worked in groups of 3, so we stopped advancing alone. We moved in groups of 4 or 5 Panthers. When we encountered the American ambush, we accepted that 1 or 2 tanks might be hit, but the others would immediately suppress all 3 American positions with high explosive rounds, while our infantry flanked them." The Americans had thin armour, 1 or 2 HE shells into their open-topped turrets, and the crew was dead. The open-topped turret, that was the M10's fatal weakness. American designers had eliminated the turret roof to save weight and improve crew visibility. In theory, this made sense. In practice, it meant German tanks could kill M10 crews with high explosive shells that burst above the turret, sending shrapnel down into the crew compartment. The 704th's September losses came from exactly this tactic. German Panthers, operating in groups, accepted the first American ambush as the price of locating all 3 tank destroyer positions. Then they systematically destroyed each position with HE fire, while German infantry with Panzerfausts closed in from the flanks. American tank destroyer crews had to adapt again. The L-shaped ambush was effective, but only if the tank destroyers could withdraw immediately after firing. Staying in position after the ambush was revealed meant death. The tactic evolved into what crews called shoot and scoot, fire 1 or 2 rounds maximum, then immediately displace to alternate positions several hundred yards away. But this created a new problem: coordination. 3 tank destroyers, firing and then simultaneously displacing to 3 different alternate positions, required split-second timing and clear communication. Radio discipline became critical. Withdrawal routes had to be pre-planned and rehearsed. Alternate firing positions had to be scouted in advance. The tactic was evolving from simple ambush into sophisticated choreography. October 7th, 1944. The 803rd Tank Destroyer Battalion receives a new commander, Major Russell Jenner. Jenner is a tank destroyer purist, a true believer in the original doctrine of independent high-speed operations. He reviews the battalion's combat reports from Normandy and France and is appalled. At his first officers' meeting, he addresses the assembled company, commanders. "Gentlemen, I've read your after-action reports, and I'm concerned. You're clustering your TDs into groups of 3, creating concentrated targets for enemy artillery. You're conducting static ambushes instead of mobile screening operations. This is not tank destroyer doctrine. This is defensive thinking. We are an offensive weapon." Captain James Burt, commander of B Company, raises his hand. "Sir, with respect, the 3-vehicle tactic has kept our loss rates below battalion average. We've achieved a kill ratio of 4-to-1 against German armour using coordinated ambushes." "Captain Burt," Jenner replies coldly, "kill ratios are meaningless if you're not accomplishing the mission. Tank destroyers are supposed to exploit breakthroughs, not sit in ambush positions. Effective immediately, this battalion will return to doctrine. TDs will operate independently or in pairs, maximum, dispersed, mobile, aggressive." The meeting ends in tense silence. The company commanders, Exchange glances. They know what's coming. They've been ordered to abandon the tactic that has kept them alive. October 13th, 1944. B Company, 803rd Tank Destroyer Battalion, conducts operations near Aachen, Germany, following Major Jenner's orders. Tank destroyers operate independently, dispersed across a 2-mile front, screening the advance of infantry units. At 14:30 hours, a German counterattack hits the center of the line, 4 Panther tanks supported by infantry. The American infantry calls for tank destroyer support. 3 M18 Hellcats respond, but they arrive at different times from different directions because they were dispersed per doctrine. The first Hellcat arrives, engages the lead Panther at 600 yards, scores a hit that damages but does not destroy the tank, and is immediately engaged by 2 other Panthers. The Hellcat is destroyed. Crew killed. The second Hellcat arrives 3 minutes later, sees the burning wreckage of the first, and attempts to flank. But operating alone, without coordinated support, it is spotted by German infantry, who call in the Panthers. The Hellcat takes a hit to the engine compartment and is abandoned. The third Hellcat arrives, assesses the situation, and withdraws without engaging. The after-action report notes, unable to effectively engage superior enemy force without support. The German counterattack succeeds. American infantry is forced to withdraw. 3 tank destroyers were available, but because they operated independently per doctrine, they could not create the coordinated firepower that might have stopped the attack. Captain Burt writes a carefully worded memo to Major Jenner that evening. Sir, today's engagement demonstrates the limitations of independent TD operations in close terrain against concentrated enemy armor. Request permission to return to 3-vehicle coordinated tactics for future operations. Jenner's response, written in the margin of Burt's memo, request denied. We will execute proper doctrine, not improvised tactics born from defensive timidity. But 4 days later, everything changes. October 17th, 1944. Major Jenner personally leads a reconnaissance in his jeep near the front lines northeast of Aachen. At 1600 hours, his jeep is struck by German artillery. Jenner is killed instantly along with his driver. Command of the 803rd passes to the executive officer, Major Thomas Wellborn, a veteran who had fought in North Africa and Italy before transferring to tank destroyers. Wellborn's first order as battalion commander. All companies revert to 3-vehicle tactical elements, effective immediately. Company commanders have discretion to employ coordinated ambush tactics as tactical situation dictates. The doctrine purist is dead. The pragmatists are back in charge. November 1944. The Allied advance has slowed. Winter is approaching. German resistance is stiffening. But American tank destroyer battalions have now formalized the 3-vehicle pack tactic. Battalion and company commanders are actively teaching it, refining it, and documenting it in tactical bulletins circulated among TD units. A tactical instruction from the 813th Tank Destroyer Battalion, dated November 4th, 1944, describes the tactic in detail. 3-vehicle ambush technique. Select ambush site with multiple covered positions offering overlapping fields of fire into a common kill zone. Primary TD positions at base of L-shape covering kill zone frontally. Secondary and tertiary TDs position on flanks at approximately 90-degree angles to primary. Maintain radio contact on company net. Primary TD has fire control authority and initiates engagement. All 3 TDs fire within 2 seconds of primary's first round. After firing 2 rounds maximum, all TDs immediately displace to pre-planned alternate positions. Do not remain in primary position more than 30 seconds after first shot. This is no longer improvisation. This is doctrine, written by the men who actually fight the battles. The tactic spreads across American tank destroyer battalions throughout the European theatre. By December 1944, virtually every TD battalion is using some variation of 3-vehicle coordinated tactics. And then comes the ultimate test. December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes. Germany launches its last great offensive in the West. 200,000 German troops, over 400 tanks including Tigers and Panthers, smash through lightly defended American positions in Belgium and Luxembourg. The goal: reach Antwerp, split the Allied armies, force a negotiated peace. For 10 days, American forces reel backward. German armor penetrates deep into Allied lines. The situation is desperate, but American tank destroyer battalions, now experts in 3-vehicle pack tactics, will play a crucial role in blunting the offensive. December 20th, 1944. The town of Strijdvith, Belgium, a critical road junction that the Germans must capture to maintain their advance. The 740th Tank Destroyer Battalion, equipped with M18 Hellcats, establishes defensive positions around the town. They have 12 operational tank destroyers organized into 4 3-vehicle teams. At 0700 hours, German reconnaissance reports Tiger tanks from the 1st SS Panzer Division approaching Strijdvith from the east. 3 Tigers, massive 60-ton monsters, armed with 88mm guns capable of destroying any American tank or tank destroyer at ranges exceeding a mile. Lieutenant Robert Luppi, the same officer who survived the hedgerow ambush in Normandy, now commands one of the 3-vehicle teams. His orders are simple: delay the Tigers. Do not let them reach Strijdvith before American infantry can establish defensive positions. If you find this story engaging, please take a moment to subscribe and enable notifications. It helps us continue producing in-depth content like this. Luppi positions his 3M18S in a textbook L-shaped ambush covering the main road into town. His Hellcat, Bloodhound, sits at the base of the L, hull down behind a stone wall with only the turret exposed. His wingmen, Thunderbolt and Gambler, are positioned 300 yards to either side in tree lines, perpendicular to the road. The Tigers appear at 0745 hours. They advance cautiously, turrets traversing, searching for threats. They know American tank destroyers are in the area. They do not know where. The lead Tiger reaches the kill zone. Luppi waits. His gunner, Sergeant Mike Poulos, tracks the Tiger's center mass through his telescopic sight. Range 420 yards, Poulos whispers. Target identified. Tiger 1, heavy. Hold fire, Luppi orders. Let him get centered. The Tiger advances another 50 yards. Now, all 3 Hellcats have clear shots at the Tiger's flanks. Luppi keys his radio. Thunderbolt, Gambler, this is Bloodhound. Stand by. Target is lead Tiger. On my shot. 2 clicks, acknowledge. Radio silence is critical. Luppi takes a breath. Gunner, target lead Tiger. Center mass. Fire. Poulos fires. The 76mm gun roars. The armor-piercing round streaks across 400 yards in less than a second and strikes the Tiger's frontal armor at a slight angle. Sparks fly. The round ricochets off the thick glacis plate. The Tiger is undamaged. But the shot reveals Bloodhound's position. The Tiger's commander immediately begins traversing his turret toward Luppi's stone wall. The 88mm gun swings around. In seconds it will fire, and at this range, the Tiger's gun will punch through the M18's thin armor like paper. But the Tiger commander has just made a fatal decision. In turning to face Bloodhound, he has exposed his side armor to Thunderbolt, Gambler. Both flank Hellcats fire simultaneously. 2 76mm rounds strike the Tiger's left side at 90-degree angles, perpendicular to the armor surface. Maximum penetration. Both rounds punch through the 3-inch side armor. The interior of the Tiger erupts. Ammunition cooks off. Flames billow from the hatches. The second Tiger, 50 yards behind the first, immediately reverses, attempting to withdraw. But in reversing, it exposes its thinner rear armor. Gambler's gunner, tracking the movement, fires. The round penetrates the Tiger's rear engine deck. The massive Maybach engine seizes. The Tiger shudders to a halt, immobilized. The third Tiger has seen enough. It rotates its turret toward Gambler's tree line and fires. The 88mm round tears through the trees, missing Gambler by 15 feet but showering the Hellcat with wood splinters and dirt. "All units, displace now," Loopy shouts into the radio. "Alternate positions, go, go, go." 3. Hellcats roar to life. Engines screaming, they back out of their positions and race toward pre-planned alternate sites 400 yards to the rear. The entire displacement takes 45 seconds. By the time the third Tiger fires again, Bloodhound's original position is empty. The engagement lasted 3 minutes. 2 Tigers destroyed, 1 immobilized. 0 American losses. The surviving Tiger withdraws, refusing to advance without support. The German advance on Streetvith is delayed by 6 hours, while engineers bring up recovery vehicles to clear the road. Those 6 hours allow American infantry to establish defensive positions that will hold the town for 2 more critical days, buying time for reinforcements to arrive. Loopy's after-action report is brief. 3-vehicle ambush tactic executed per training. Enemy heavy tanks destroyed through coordinated flank fire. Immediate displacement prevented counterfire casualties. Tactic proven effective against heaviest German armour. But the broader significance is this. Across the entire Ardennes battlefield, American tank destroyer battalions using 3-vehicle pack tactics are achieving similar results. German armour, accustomed to overwhelming lighter American forces through superior individual tank performance, is being systematically destroyed by coordinated ambushes that exploit geometric vulnerabilities. December 23, 1944. The German offensive has stalled. Fuel shortages, air attacks, and stubborn American resistance have ground the advance to a halt. German tank losses are catastrophic. According to Wehrmacht records declassified in the 1980s, the German army lost approximately 600 tanks and assault guns during the Battle of the Bulge. American tank destroyer battalions are credited with destroying over 200 of those vehicles. The kill-to-loss ratio tells the story. American tank destroyers suffered approximately 97 vehicle losses during the battle, but they destroyed more than twice that number of German tanks, many of them the feared Tigers and Panthers that were supposedly invincible. The 3-vehicle pack tactic was not the only factor in American success, but it was significant. German commanders, interviewed after the war, repeatedly mention the effectiveness of coordinated American anti-tank ambushes. General Major Otto Remmer, who commanded German forces during the Battle of the Bulge, stated in a 1946 interrogation, "The Americans had learned how to fight our tanks. They no longer met us head-on, where our armour superiority could dominate. Instead, they set traps. Multiple anti-tank guns or tank destroyers positioned to create crossfire. Our tanks had no chance once they entered these kill zones. It was not a matter of crew skill or vehicle quality. It was geometry. They attacked from angles we could not defend." Geometry, the same word American tank destroyer crews used. The 3-vehicle pack tactic had transformed American anti-tank warfare from desperate improvisation into mathematical certainty. But there is another dimension to this story. The human dimension, because the 3-vehicle tactic required something beyond tactical skill. It required trust. When 3 tank destroyer crews execute a coordinated ambush, each crew is trusting the others to perform their role. The primary TD that fires first is trusting that the flank TDs will immediately engage, drawing enemy fire away from the primary position. The flank TDs are trusting that the primary will choose the right moment to initiate the ambush. Not too early when the enemy can withdraw, not too late when the enemy has already passed through the kill zone. This level of coordination cannot be taught in classrooms. It emerges from shared combat experience, from crews that have fought together, bled together, and survived together. Sergeant William McAfee, whose crew pioneered the L-shaped ambush in Normandy, described it in a 1946 letter to his family. "You can train men to drive a tank destroyer, to load and fire the gun, to read a map and use a radio. But you cannot train trust. Trust comes from knowing that when you fire that first shot and every German gun in the area turns toward you, the men in the other 2 TDs will not hesitate, will not panic, it will immediately fire and give you a chance to get out alive. We trusted each other because we had no choice, and that trust kept us alive. By January 1945, the German offensive has been defeated. American forces are pushing back into Germany. Tank destroyer battalions continue to use three-vehicle pack tactics as they advance through the Siegfried Line, across the Rhine, and into the German heartland. The tactic has become so standardized that the Army publishes an official tactical manual in February 1945 titled Employment of Tank Destroyer Units in the European Theatre. Section 4, subsection B, describes the three-vehicle coordinated ambush in detail, complete with diagrams showing optimal positioning, fields of fire, and displacement routes. The improvisation, born in the hedgerows of Normandy, has become official doctrine. The men who developed the tactic through trial and error, who died learning its principles, have shaped how the United States Army fights armored warfare. March 1945. The war is nearing its end. German resistance is collapsing. American tank destroyer battalions are still hunting in packs of 3, but now the prey is scarce. German armor is running out of fuel, spare parts, and trained crews. Many German tanks are abandoned by their crews, immobilized by mechanical failure or lack of fuel rather than combat damage. Staff Sergeant Robert Lupi, now commanding a full platoon of 4 M18 Hellcats, writes in his diary on March 22nd, "We set up ambush positions out of habit now. Sometimes no enemy appears for days. When they do come, they are often walking, having abandoned their tanks miles back. The three-vehicle tactic won us the tank battles, but we won the war by having more fuel than the Germans, more spare parts, more trained replacements. The tactic kept us alive long enough for logistics to win the war." This is the truth that the three-vehicle pack tactic reveals. American tactical innovation did not win the war through superior firepower or armor. It won by keeping crews alive long enough for American industrial and logistical superiority to grind down the German military machine. The three-vehicle tactic was a force multiplier, but the real force was the system behind it. The factories that produced tank destroyers faster than they could be destroyed, the supply lines that kept them fueled and armed, the replacement crews that arrived within days of casualties. May 8, 1945. Germany surrenders. The war in Europe is over. American tank destroyer battalions have destroyed an estimated 2,000 German tanks and assault guns during the 11-month campaign from D-Day to VE Day. Approximately 40% of those kills are attributed to three-vehicle coordinated ambushes. The cost was not insignificant. Tank destroyer battalions suffered casualty rates comparable to infantry units. Of the approximately 53,000 men who served in American tank destroyer battalions during World War II, over 5,000 were killed in action and another 15,000 were wounded. The open-topped turrets, thin armor, and aggressive tactics made tank destroyer service one of the most dangerous assignments in the Army. But the three-vehicle pack tactic reduced casualties significantly compared to independent operations. Statistical analysis conducted by the Army in 1946 found that tank destroyers operating independently suffered casualty rates approximately 38% higher than those operating in three-vehicle coordinated teams. The difference was stark. Independence meant death. Coordination meant survival. Post-war analysis. In 1947, the U.S. Army Armor School at Fort Knox conducted a comprehensive study of tank destroyer tactics in the European theatre. The study, titled Tank Destroyer Operations in World War II, Lessons Learned, dedicated an entire chapter to the three-vehicle coordinated ambush tactic. The study's conclusions were unambiguous. The three-vehicle tactical element proved to be the optimal organizational structure for tank destroyer operations in close terrain. This configuration provided sufficient firepower concentration to engage heavy enemy armor, adequate redundancy to continue operations despite vehicle losses, and manageable command and control for rapid tactical decision-making. The spontaneous development of this tactic by frontline units demonstrates the importance of tactical flexibility and the willingness to adapt doctrine to combat realities. The study recommended that the three-vehicle element be adopted as the standard tactical organization for all future anti-tank units. This recommendation would influence American armored doctrine for decades. During the Korean War, American tank units facing Soviet-built T-34 tanks employed modified versions of the three-vehicle ambush tactic. During the Cold War, NATO anti-tank doctrine incorporated principles of coordinated multi-vehicle ambushes against expected Soviet armor attacks. The M901 improved TOW vehicle, which entered service in the 1980s, was specifically designed to operate in three-vehicle teams, with doctrine directly descended from World War II tank destroyer tactics. Even modern American cavalry and armor units maintain the three-vehicle element as a basic tactical building block. The M1 Abrams tank typically operates in 4 tank platoons, but tactical manuals describe how platoons can split into a wingman element of 2 tanks and a single tank, or into other combinations including 3 tank elements for specific missions like flank security or ambush operations. The legacy lives in the geometry, in the understanding that 3 platforms attacking from 3 angles create problems that even superior enemy systems cannot solve. The human cost, but statistics and doctrine cannot capture the human reality of the three-vehicle pack tactic. For the men who fought in tank destroyers, the tactic was not an abstract tactical concept. It was the difference between coming home and dying in a burning vehicle in a French hedgerow or German forest. Lieutenant Charles MacDonald, whose crew we met at the beginning of this story, survived the war. He wrote a memoir in 1973 titled Tank Destroyer, The Story of the 740th. In it, he describes what the three-vehicle tactic meant to him. When you are inside a tank destroyer, you are surrounded by half an inch of armor. A German 88mm gun can punch through that armor from over a mile away. You know that if you are seen first, you will die. There is no surviving a direct hit. Your only chance is to see the enemy first, shoot first, and move before he can return fire. But one tank destroyer alone cannot do this reliably. Human eyes can only watch so many directions. Human reflexes can only react so fast. You need other eyes, other guns, other crews who will fire when you fire, who will move when you move, who will not abandon you when the shooting starts. The three-vehicle tactic gave us that. It gave us eyes covering 3 directions. It gave us guns firing from 3 angles. And it gave us the knowledge that we were not alone, that when we rolled into combat, 2 other crews were with us, watching our flanks, covering our withdrawal, ready to die to keep us alive. That knowledge, that certainty of support, made the fear bearable. It made survival possible. MacDonald's crew, operating in 3-vehicle teams throughout the Battle of Bulge and the final advance into Germany, destroyed 11 German tanks and survived the war without a single crew member killed. MacDonald attributed their survival directly to the 3-vehicle tactic and the trust it required. Thank you for watching. For more detailed historical breakdowns, check out the other videos on your screen now, and don't forget to subscribe.